Excuse me. All right, everybody, 2.1. We're starting Module 2. In Module 2, you can see the title there at the top. It's transversals, triangles, and reflex angles. So we are still going to be sticking with some geometry stuff here for a little while. All right, and a lot of this stuff is important things, too, that'll help you in geometry in high school when you're a sophomore. All right, so let's start here. 2.1 is parallel lines cut by a transversal. So number one is, what is a transversal? Parallel lines, I think we all know what that is. Parallel lines are two lines that will never meet, okay? A transversal is a line that crosses at least two other lines. Okay, so pause it and write that down. I'm gonna keep going here. So for example, this picture here at the right, we kind of ignore the numbers and the words here for a second. This right here, oops, what's going on with my pen? Oh, there we go. This line right here that I tried to just write over, that is a transversal. It is one line that's crossing those other two lines, okay? That's what a transversal is. So we're gonna focus a lot on this picture here, especially today. This picture is really all we're gonna look at, and all of the angles and all the angles 1 through 8 there. You know, how do they relate? What are they? How can we find their measure? That's what we're talking about. Okay, so if I kind of zoom out here, there we go. So we have 4 terms here, and then you can see an example of each of those 4 terms. So I'm gonna talk about those and add just a little bit more to that. So corresponding angles, the first one is, says an example of that would be angles 1 and 5. Okay, so angles 1 and 5, if we look at those two, if I box together these angles, angles 1 and 5 are corresponding angles because they are both in the same position in their group. 1 is in the top left, 5 is in the top left. Okay, so if we keep doing that, what other pairs of angles would be corresponding angles? Okay, so another pair would be 3 and 7 because 3 is in the bottom left and 7 is in the bottom left. All right, and we can keep going. So try to think to yourself here for a second. What would be another pair of corresponding angles? All right, so if we keep going, another pair would be angle 2 with angle 6. They're both in the top right. And then the last pair of corresponding angles would be angle 4 and angle 8, both in the bottom right. Now, importantly, or just as importantly, is yes, those are corresponding angles, great, but they are equal. So corresponding angles are always equal to each other. So angle 1 and angle 5 are equal to each other. They're the same angle measure. Angles 3 and 7 are equal to each other. 2 and 6 are equal to each other. 4 and 8 are equal to each other. Okay, so that's big because if we know one, obviously we can find another one by using that. All right, alternate interior angles. Okay, alternate interior angles. These next 3, the name tells you what and where they are. So interior means on the inside of the parallel lines. So the inside of the parallel lines would only be these 4 angles right here. Alternate means on opposite sides. So alternate interior angles, one example would be 3 and 6. Okay, so you could probably already guess the other example because there's only 2 angles left, but angles 4 and 5 are also alternate interior angles. It's hard to say. And like corresponding angles, alternate interior angles are also all equal to each other. So angles 3 and 6 are equal. Angles 4 and 5 are equal to each other as well. Okay, next one, alternate exterior angles. So I'm going to highlight that. Exterior, outside, that means outside of the parallel lines. So, whoops, sorry, keep hitting the wrong thing. Exterior. Outside, so that means what angles are on the outside of the parallel lines? Those two, and those two down there. Okay, so the example it gives you for alternate exterior angles would be angle 1 and angle 8. Again, alternate means on opposite sides, just like on alternate interior. So the other pair would be 2 and 7 would also be alternate exterior angles. And guess what? They are also equal to each other. Okay, so angles 1 and 8 are the same angle measure. Angles 2 and 7 are also the same angle measure as well. All right, last one. Same side interior angles. So again, interior, and then on the same side. So if we look at that, angles 3 and 5 are same side interior angles. The other pair of same side interior angles would be 4 and 6. Now, obviously there, if you look at 3 and 5, those are not equal to each other, right? 3 looks really like a really big angle, 5 looks like a small angle. So those are not the same size. So they're not, I'm not gonna put equal, but they do have a relationship that we need to know. And that is that they add to 180. Same side interior angles add to 180. So angle 3 and angle 5, if I add those two angles together, they have to equal 180 degrees. Angle 4 and 6, if I add those together, they have to equal 180 degrees. Okay? So we're going to go over here to example 1, and we are going to kind of go through all 4 of these vocab words and figure this out. Okay? So it says find all of the angles if M stands for measure, if the measure of angle 7 is 125 degrees. So angle 7 is 125 degrees. Now we're going to find the other ones, all 7 of them. And all we're going to do, I shouldn't say all, but most of what we're going to do is we're going to use those vocab words right there. And then we're also going to use a couple things that we've known from the past. Okay, that, well, you know, but maybe you don't remember. Okay, first, let's start with the first one. Let's go from top to bottom, corresponding angles. So if I look at angle 7 from this group, which angle in the top group corresponds to angle 7? Or in other words, remember, is in the same position. That would be angle 3. So I know angle 3 is also 125 degrees. Without having to do any work, just knowing that vocabulary word. Okay, next word, alternate interior angles. So if I go on the inside, in here, alternate interior, I know angle 3 is 125. Its alternate interior angle is angle 6. And those have to be equal, so angle 6. Angle 6 is 125 degrees as well. Okay, let's keep going. Alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles. So remember, that's only looking at the outside angles. And since I know angle 7 is 125, what's its alternate exterior angle? That would be angle 2 up here. Alternate exterior angles are equal. So that's 125 degrees. Okay, so just by going down the list, we've really quickly, without having to do any work, knowing the word, knowing the definition, come up with all these other angle measures. Okay, let's go to the last one. Same side interior angle. So now we're back here. Yeah, there we go. Back here on the inside, right? So back here on the inside, if we look at that, same side interior. So if I look at, like, let's just do angles 3 and 5. I know that angle 3 plus angle 5 has to add to 180, right? Like we just said. So angle 3 is 125 plus angle 5, which I don't know. I know that has to equal 180, right? So let's just solve this little simple equation, little one-step equation that we've done in the past. So angle 5 would equal 180 minus 125 should be 55 degrees. Excuse me. So angle 5 is 55 degrees, right? Now, if we keep going from here, I can go right back up my list and keep doing the same things I just did. I can go back and use corresponding angles. I can use alternate interior angles. I can use exterior. Excuse me. And keep using all of those things, which I'm going to do, but I also want to point out a couple other things from maybe the past that you haven't used as I do this. So let's start with corresponding. Angle 5 and angle 1 would be corresponding angles. So I know this is 55 degrees. Angles 4 and 5. If I look at angles 4 and 5 together, what are those? Well, those are alternate interior angles, so I know those are equal. So that's 55 degrees. Excuse me, and then angles 1 and 8. Angles 1 and 8 are alternate exterior angles, so I know they're equal. Or I could say angles 4 and 8 are both corresponding angles, so I could say they're equal. So there's lots of different ways we can do this. Two other things that I wanted to point out that we didn't use. Any two angles, like right here, any two angles that are next to each other have to add up to 180 because they make a straight line. So angle 1 plus angle 2 I know is 180. And if you look at 55 and 125, that equals 180. Or angles 1 and 3. Any two angles that are next to each other that I'm highlighting right now are all examples of angles that would have to add up to 180 because they make a straight line. Okay, so that's something I know you've used in the past. Just, it's been in the past, it's been a while. The other thing I wanted to do is I wanted you to notice was this. If you look here, like angles 1 and 4, okay, or angles 2 and 3, like that. So where the two lines meet, the angles that are on opposite sides like that from each other are equal. That's not a coincidence. Those things are called vertical angles, something you probably used in the past. So that's another thing we could have done is said, I know that angles 1 and 4 are the same because they're vertical angles. Angles 2 and 3 are the same because they're vertical angles. So there's lots of words we can use, and we found 7 angles in this picture by just doing one small little math problem, right? Everything else was vocabulary stuff. Okay, so example 2, same type of problem. That's going to be yours to do. Okay, the next parts down here on the next page you can see all have a little bit more to them, right? So they're going to be the same kind of questions using the same vocabulary words, but you can see there's variables involved now. Okay, so I'm going to do one of these, and then I want you guys to see if you can try to do the rest. And obviously we'll go over them in class if you have some trouble with them. So, excuse me, it says use the figure below to answer A, B, and C. Okay, so it says, now this is another thing that I wanted to make sure we understood. It says find the measure, remember M means measure, of VWZ. VWZ. So when you're saying what angle is that, all you do is go to the points and follow along. So I'm going to outline them. V to W to Z, right there. So that means I'm looking for that angle, which is labeled as 3x. Okay, how can I find that angle? Okay, so if we look at what else in the picture we're given, obviously you can see that we have a 6x right there as well. Here's where the vocab is going to come in. What are those two angles that we just circled? And there's corners. So those angles are on the interior and they're on the same side. So they are same side interior angles. So let's go back up there real quick. Same side interior angles have to add up to 180, right? So that means if I take these two angles, one of the angles is 3x, and add it to the other angle on the same side, which is 6x. So if I take those two angles and add them together, I know they have to equal 180. Okay, now I can combine like terms, if we remember that, hopefully. 3x plus 6x is 9x. So I got 9x equals 180, so now just divide both sides by 9, and x is 20. Now here's where we've got to be careful. It doesn't ask me what x is, right? No, it doesn't ask me what x is, it asks me what the angle is. So, since I know x is 20, and I know that angle that I'm looking for that I outlined over here, that I can now highlight, this angle here is 3x, right? 3 times x. So, this angle here is going to be 3 times 20. 3 times x. I know x is 20. 3 times 20 is 60. So this angle is 60 degrees. Okay? All right, let me erase this outline part. Now I'm going to switch colors as well, just so we can see what's next. SVU. Where's that? There it is. SVU. So that'd be that angle right up there. Okay, that angle right up there. So that one too, if I look at that and look at what I know so far, I know that one angle is 60, and there's not really a whole lot I can do with that. Okay, so let's skip it. Get on the next one. Let's use purple. TWV. Where's TWV? TWV is that angle right there. Okay, do you notice anything about this angle here and this angle there? What are they? Those two angles are corresponding. They are in the same, they're both in the top left of their part. Okay? So, what do we do now? Right? We're saying, well, how do I find those? I don't know anything about them. Well, we're going to use the information that we have over here to the right. Okay? We're going to use that information. We know x is 20. So, if I know x is 20, let's do this. What's this angle? Well, it's not going to be 6 times x anymore. It's going to be 6 times 20. 6 times 20 is 120 degrees. So I know that angle is 120. If I know that angle is 120, I know this angle is 120, TWV, because those two angles are alternate interior angles. If that's 120, then that means, whoops, didn't mean to erase that. Then that means this is 120 as well, because those are corresponding angles. Okay, so it can get a little tricky. Okay, you just got to keep coming back and forth from this picture. Once you find one angle, you can find everything else. Everything else. You know, you might have to find, like here, I didn't need to find this angle right here. I didn't have to know that, right? I didn't have to know that for an answer. They didn't ask for that one over here. But I did have to work it out to figure out the ones that I was missing. Okay, so examples 4 and 5 are similar to that. Okay, they give you a little bit different stuff, but go back and look. Go back and look at those vocabulary words to try to help you find those are the things. This one right here, I'm going to get you started. I'm going to give you a little hint. Okay, give you a little hint here and label some stuff and what we got to remember. So this one here if I look at the picture, this one is 4x and this one again is 6x. That's a little tricky. Those two angles, this one and this one, they're not really related in any way. If I look back at all my vocab words, there's nothing that puts those two together some way. Okay, so that might be a little tricky for you. Now, one thing I can do is this though. This angle here, which is in the bottom left, is a corresponding angle with this angle right there, right? So that means this one is also 6x degrees. And now we got something. These two angles make a straight line, right? So if those two angles make a straight line, then that means that they would add up to 180 degrees. Go from there. Now you should be off and ready to go and find these three angles here at the right. So like I did, when you're finding angle GDE, GDE is this angle right here, which is great. That's one of the angles that you'd be working with anyway, okay? All right, go ahead, try that one, try this one. We'll talk about them in class if you have some troubles with them, and make sure we get the answers, okay? All right, let me know if you need anything.